manufacturers, little big men of the provinces with fast food fortunes or chains of piggly wiggly supermarkets or gravel quarry empires. There was even the occasional liberal, Senator Mark Hatfield, Republican of Oregon, and Senator Harold Hughes, Democrat of Iowa, men of good faith and bad judgment who lent their names to the causes of the family's brothers overseas, the Indonesian genocidaire Suharto, Hatfield, the Filipino strongman Ferdinand Marcos, Hughes. Christ ministered to a few and did not set out to minister to large throngs of people, says a supporter. The family differs from more conventional fundamentalist groups in its preference for those whom it calls key men over the multitude. We simply call ourselves the Fellowship or a family of friends, declares a document titled 8 Core Aspects of the Vision and Methods, distributed to members at the 2010 National Prayer Breakfast, the movement's only public event. One of the 8 core aspects is the movement's interpretation of Acts 9:15. This man is my chosen instrument to take my name before the Gentiles and their kings. The family's unorthodox reading of this verse is that it is an injunction to work not through public revivals, but through private relationships with the king or other leaders of our world who hold enormous influence, for better or worse, over vast numbers of people. The family sees itself as a ministry for the benefit of the poor by way of the powerful. The best way to help the weak, it teaches, is to help the strong. In 2008 and 2009, the family did so by helping Senator John Ensign, Republican from Nevada, Governor Mark Sanford, Republican from South Carolina, and former Representative Chip Pickering, Republican from Mississippi, cover up extramarital affairs. Not to avoid embarrassment for the family, an organization that until 2009 denied its own existence, but because the family believes that its members are placed in power by God, that they are His new chosen, that the senator, the governor, and the congressman were tools with which to advance His kingdom, an ambition so worthy that beside it all personal failings pale. On June 16, 2009, Senator Ensign flew home to Las Vegas to confess his affair. Ensign, fourth-ranking Republican and a man with Iowa and Pennsylvania Avenue on his mind, had made a career of going against the grain of his hometown. He was a moral scold who'd promoted himself as a promise keeper, a member of the conservative men's ministry, and a family values man. He'd been a hound once, according to friends, but he'd come to Christ before he came to politics. For Ensign, the two passions were intertwined. He didn't just go to church. He lived in one, the family's house at 133 C Street Southeast, registered as a church for tax purposes. I'd met Ensign there once, when I was writing an earlier book on unusual religious communities around the country. I'd seen some strange things: a Pentecostal exorcism in North Carolina, a massive outdoor pagan dance party in honor of the Horned One in rural Kansas, a cowboy church in Texas featuring a cross made of horseshoes and, in lieu of a picture of Jesus, a lovely portrait of a seriously horned Texas Longhorn steer. But C Street was in its own category, simultaneously banal, a prayer meeting of congressmen in which they insisted on calling God Coach, and more unsettling than anything I'd witnessed. Doug Coe, the first brother of the family since 1969, used to say that Jesus was not a sissy. That disdain for weakness infuses the movement's theology so completely, so naturally, that it comes across as almost amiable. I've seen pictures of the young men in the Red Guard, he says in a videotaped sermon, a tall man in a rumpled suit, spreading out his hands like he's setting up a joke. They would bring in this young man's mother. He would take an axe and cut her head off. Coe makes a chopping motion. That, he says, is dedication to a cause. But there's nothing grim about his presentation. He sounds like he's inviting you to join a team or a fundraiser. And he is. A covenant, a pledge, he exclaims, setting up the punchline. Such is the C Street style, the most violent metaphors imaginable deployed as maxims for everyday living, from the prayer calendar on the wall that called on the house's congressional tenants to devote a portion of each morning to spiritual war, combat by prayer, against demonic